Just like to make a note of something very important that has been said thus far. It's simply this. To your own ears this morning was read a passage of terrifying judgments that are falling and will continue to fall upon the earth until the second coming of Jesus Christ. To the degree that your heart trembled this morning, it demonstrates your belief in the Word of God. Many heard what was read this morning, and it did not bother you a bit. And not simply because you have assurance of salvation, but because there is something of a callousness that has grown over your heart. You just heard terrible things. Today you'll even hear, although I'm speaking about the Christian life, that this is a serious matter between life and death. And yet, even though these words are weighty, they can come in one ear and out the other. Now, I've been brought here to teach on how to be more godly, to be more Christ-like, to stand with greater assurance before the throne of God. But I will say this, there are people here who, although you would not say this with your mouth, with your life, you demonstrate it. You care very little for these types of things. They really do not matter much to you. If that angers you, then let me ask you a question. How much time during the day do you think about yourself? How much time during the day do you think about things that are temporal? Your physical strength, or your beauty, or your clothing, or your relationships, or the joys and pleasures of this world? How much time do you spend thinking about that? And then how much time do you think about cultivating godliness, about becoming more chaste, more innocent, more Christ-like? How are you working and laboring towards a greater assurance of your salvation? You see? And even now, as I speak to you, you'll put your head down and not listen to a word that I'm saying. I want you to know that to sit under the Word of God is an extremely dangerous thing. For the same sun that melts butter hardens clay. Beware of sensuality. Beware of the things of this world. Beware of your own heart. Ask yourself, is there really, come on. Is there any evidence whatsoever that you have been born again? Are you here today because it's Sunday? Are you here today because it is appropriate in your family to be here? Are you here today because you're forced, coerced? People who have truly been regenerated by the Spirit of God find it a pleasure to come to the house of God. And although at times we recognize that even those who love the Lord must endure boring sermons, still we come because we want to hear a word from God. But then, when the regenerate heart leaves the church, that regenerate heart does not leave behind the desire. But what God has done in that life is reflected throughout the week. If I followed you around with a camera, a video camera, and videoed your life, how much time would I see you preoccupied with you? Preoccupied with the temporal. Preoccupied with the things that will not last. Vanity, mirrors, makeup and muscles. Cars and homes and certain brands of clothing. If I followed you around and could look inside your heart, how many thoughts about yourself? How many thoughts in your heart wondering what other people think about you and then trying to do all in your power to attract them and to gain their attention rather than seeking to attract the view of God? You see, there are some here today and you are unconverted and you will go to hell. You will. And you will be surprised on that great day when you hear, "Depart from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you." What he's basically saying in that passage is, depart from me, those of you who claim to have something to do with me, and yet you lived as though I never gave you a law to obey. You took nothing serious of all the weighty matters I laid before you every Sunday. You were sensual, worldly, carnal. You were not mine. It's a dreadful thing to say. I'm aware of that. And that's why I'm saying it calmly. But it's true. I will teach on how to be godly. But there are some of you here today, and you simply don't care. You don't care to be godly. And if you argue with me, then I will say, show me the evidence. Show it to me. Show me how much time you spend in front of the mirror and how much time you spend in front of the Word of God. Show me how much time you spend trying to attract human relationships and spend no time to beautify yourself before the Lord that you might attract Him. Be very careful. Be very careful. Some of you are just biding the time until this Lord's Day is over so you can go on to things that are more pleasurable to you. Be afraid. These are great, these are weighty matters. And one of the worst things that you could ever adopt is to take on to yourself a very presentable religion that gives you just enough morality to gain a reputation, but there's no love in your heart for Christ. Be terrified. Be terrified.